Hello and welcome to the Tea Party Hearty channel for the review of the Muppets Now, the final episode. Yay! Season 1, Episode 6, Socialized. Okay, so there are only 3 sketches this time. The first one is Beaker and Honeydew. I think they somehow figured out that that was going to be their baby Yoda, and so they put it at the front. Kudos once again for doing real science. A lot of real science this time around. And then what they do is they do this little formula with the otter, the cute little otter here. And he says, well, whatever you do, don't do dish soap plus H2O2 plus Ki. And I forgot what those 2 letters stand for, but you can look it up on the periodic table. But I know this, and I know this, and I also know what it creates. This is the lovely, this is hydrogen peroxide, by the way, and this is 2 different chemicals. This is the trick if you want to do this. It creates elephant's toothpaste, but in order to do the fancy smancy elephant's toothpaste, you need these 2 things. And if you're not a chemistry teacher, it's very difficult to purchase these 2 because of going way back to 1995 with the federal building getting turned into little pieces of rubble from nitrates, also known as poo-poo. Yeah. Anyways, so they show you how to make, well, they show you the basic formula. They don't show you it's much like the cooking segment, which is the segment that follows this. Much like it, where they show you all the ingredients, but they don't tell you how much, they don't tell you how long to cook it, or anything else. Same thing with this formula. But at least this one this is a real science episode. I mean, like from beginning to end, it's a real science episode. And they don't waste anything. Well, they do waste some soda, darn it. But not a ton, not like they did on the other stuff. And they have all these ingredients here that they don't all get used in the show. I don't know if they actually shot it and just cut it out. But because you don't see the sugar being used and the water being used. You see the salt, you see the soda, and some other stuff. But anyways, it was really cool. And I will show you at the end what the elephant's toothpaste looks like if you don't know. Now, if you want to make the elephant's toothpaste, you can find the recipe online. And if you want to do the fancy one that they do, that explodes big time and is really thick, it's also endothermic. So it creates a ton of heat and then it creates a lot of cold. It's kind of neat. But if you just want to do the normal one, you'll find the other recipe too, which still uses dish soap because that's where you get all the bubbles from the sodium laurate. Or is it laurelate? Sodium laurelate? I think it's pronounced laurelate. Anyways, that's what makes all the bubbles. So in the dish soap. So you get the dish soap, you get the hydrogen peroxide 30% that you get from the beautician. Is where it's cheap, but you have to go to beauticians. So hopefully you're not on lockdown. And that's where you get that. And then for the final ingredient, what is the final ingredient? I can't remember, but look it up on that. I haven't made it in a long time because it's sadly, it's yeast. Yeah, it's yeast. So you want the yeast, it's just like if you're making bread. You want the yeast to be fresh and you want it to be at least at room temperature. That will give you the biggest explosion. The older the yeast is, the way less the explosion is going to be. And the newer it is, the bigger it is. But you're going to get an explosion about 1/3 of the Mentos inside of the soda, diet soda for best eruption, and yeah, for a whole different for all different science reasons. But since this isn't supposed to be a science video, I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so the next sketch is the cooking sketch, and it goes back to feeling very improv and very, very, very not funny, and once again completely useless because they don't tell you the measurements of the ingredients, and they don't have me to point out how you actually can find it and make it. And then finally, you get to the last sketch, which is with Seth Rogen, where they do an interview. This time it's Fozzie Bear instead of Kermit. Kermit did the first couple, then Miss Piggy did one. And again, we're back to feeling very much unscripted. And if you watch talk shows at night, there are really good interviewers, and that's why they make very good money to have that spot. The guy who's voicing Fozzie Bear, yeah, not so much. Because I know it's not Frank Oz anymore. Well, I don't know it, but I believe it's not Frank Oz anymore. And it's an interview, and you get answers to questions, you get straight ones. And it has those horribly creepy babies that look like old men, and I hated them in the 70s, and they still give me the willies now. But if you like babies that look like old men and make old men sounds, and you don't mind really benign, slow, interviewee type questions and responses, you'll like it. The only thing I can say that surprised me in that sketch was, wow, Seth Rogen's gotten really old. He doesn't look like he did in the one where he's on Hawaii, and yeah, it's like he's got all this gray hair, and I'm like, dude, time marches on. Okay, let's look at the elephant's toothpaste. It's pretty fun. Here it comes. Oh, come on, do it. Give me some elephant's toothpaste. Hopefully we don't get a copyright strike out of this. And I'm just trying to prevent the copyright strike. I hope it works. I don't want a copyright strike. I'm reviewing. Bam, baby. Oh, yeah. And see how big and thick it is, and then the steam coming off? Because it's endothermic, which means the heat goes inside instead of outside. But yeah, you will not get this size of an explosion at all if you don't have those last two ingredients I showed you earlier. But if you do, oh dude, it's cool. And the kids will freak. They will really freak. They'll love it. And I'm pretty sure it's non-toxic. I know the one that you do with the yeast is non-toxic. Oh, I shouldn't be talking over the otter. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that one's non-toxic, but I wouldn't swear to it. So look it up in the ingredients. It'll tell. If you do the one with the yeast and the hydrogen peroxide from the beauticians at 30%, and you do the dish soap, what you get when you mix yeast and hydrogen peroxide is oxygen. It just creates more oxygen. It knocks out the hydrogen and leaves the oxygen atoms, so it's not toxic at all. That doesn't mean some kids won't have allergies against it, but it's not considered a toxin. So anyways, there's the elephant's toothpaste, there's the Muppets on the final one. I'm so glad they put science in this, but I really hated this Muppets now. It was the worst Muppets I've ever had to watch in my whole life of all the different Muppets. It's been painful. Yes, there were a couple of good sketches here and there, mostly belonging to them. The one back on episode 5 with the sword fighting was very much welcome and pleasant. But dude, the rest was just boring. Boring, boring, boring. If you liked it, congratulations. I'm very glad. I wouldn't take that away from you. But for a fan of the Muppets from day one, no. Even though the otter's really cute. He kind of looks like John Denver, which they did a lot of movies with. Okay, so that's it for this. We'll see if they come back for Series 2. Next review, Mulan. Wish me luck. It's the live action one. I hope it's not as horrible as everybody else says. We'll find out. Until then, we'll see you in the future.